the state should support parents and be an ally to parents as they try to protect the innocence of their children. And it is widely recognized that exposing children to sexual images is a form of child abuse. It is abuse of children to expose them to sexual images. And I think that recognition puts in sharp focus what we're talking about here, because there is an absolute epidemic of this kind of abuse of children. That so many children now are exposed to and are accessing sexual images, often very violent and demeaning sexual images online, on computers, but also on other kinds of devices. And it is very difficult for parents to protect them. I completely agree with the important advice given about how parents can have devices in public areas and so forth to try to minimize the risk to their kids. But when kids are in school, if there are other children who have things on their devices who are showing or sharing images, those risks really remain. And there are of course such a plethora of different places where now access to this imagery is possible. So parents are going to be working hard, of course, to protect their kids as much as they're able. But there is such a pressing threat to these efforts to preserve and protect the innocence of children. And the statistics bear this out, that the average age of first exposure to pornographic material for boys is 11 years old.
Oh.
So it's now so common for very young boys who have no ability to contextualize or understand what they're seeing to be accessing sexual images online. And when young kids access these images, it wires their brain. It shapes the way they perceive sexuality and relationships. And so much of the imagery that's out there, and I can quote some data on this as well, is violent. So I'll give you an analysis of the 50 best-selling so-called adult videos found that 88% of scenes show physical aggression, 49% of scenes contain verbal aggression, and 95% of the victims of the aggressions in scenes were either neutral or responded with pleasure. So these are images that increasingly are wiring kids' brains to have totally wrong and distorted views of sexuality, in which aggression, violence is met in a neutral or positive way. And as a result of this normalization of violence in the context of sexuality, we are seeing an increase in child-on-child abuse, where children, same age, older, are committing acts against other children that in some way replicate things that they've seen in the context of these images. It's just a horrible, horrible situation that is under the radar, that is almost never discussed in our parliament, but I think you'll agree is critical to the well-being of future generations. It's about protecting our kids from the abuse that is seeing these kinds of images, and also protecting other kids from the effects of children acting out in ways against each other. There's so much discussion in the wider society about violence against women, about sexual violence, but there's not enough discussion of this kind of normalization of pornography and early exposure to pornography as being a central contributing factor to this violence that we're seeing. So into this has come Bill S-210, a bill that seeks to confront this terrible, terrible problem. And Bill S-210 is very simple and straightforward. It seeks to require something called meaningful age verification for anyone that's accessing this material on the internet. Meaningful age verification. That is, mechanisms or a mechanism to prove that the person accessing this material is of age. So we don't have that right now. There's no mechanism to verify the age of people accessing this material. That's why it's so common for very young preteen boys in particular, but also girls to access this material. So meaningful age verification would apply rules that already exist in other areas for accessing alcohol, tobacco products, for gambling, things that we as a society recognize as being adult and not child activities. It would apply those same requirements to accessing sexual images. So I think this is just common sense. Those who say, well, age verification, how do you do that? How is it possible to do age verification on the internet? It already happens, right? There's online gambling, people ordering tobacco products online. There already are rules around meaningful age verification that exist, and there are rules around age verification that exist in relation to sexual content in other countries. France, Germany, the UK just passed a law after noting a dramatic increase in the proportion of child-on-child sexual violence. The UK moved forward as well. So it's just common sense to apply those rules to these kinds of images as well. And the other thing we've seen that is maybe not well known either is that one of, if not the largest company that provides pornography online, Pornhub, is headquartered here in Canada. It's changed its name. It was called Mindbeat that owned Pornhub, and now it's called ILO. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. They're trying now to keep a lower profile. But they have just done a terrible job. They've shown complete disregard for the protection of children. And there have been many instances revealed where videos that actually depict children appeared on their website. And even if they're taken down, once it's on the internet, it's on the internet, right? So this is a company here in Canada that needs to be held accountable, and we have a special responsibility as Canadians to confront the abuse that they are responsible for. So I think Bill S-210 is common sense. It passed the Senate unanimously. It was studied in detail in a committee there, and then it came to the House of Commons. The bill passed the House of Commons at second reading because we had an unusual constellation of support. The Conservatives, the NDP, and the Bloc all voted together in favor of the bill. So we have a Liberal government, but a minority Liberal government, so the bill was able to pass. And there were a couple Liberal MPs who voted for the bill as well. But most of the Liberals, including the Cabinet, voted against the bill, which I think is shocking to a lot of people. Why are they opposing this common sense legislation? And we know now that they oppose it, that they will use whatever tools they can to disrupt its progress. If the opposition remains united, we will still be able to pass this bill into law. But I suspect that we will see tactics and attempts by Liberal MPs to try to prevent it from going forward, or to try to persuade their colleagues in the NDP or the Bloc to change their position. Now, what are the arguments we've heard against this bill? I want to give those a fair hearing, even though I don't